This episode is presented by Lost Bell Wines. Rebranding from one of the oldest wineries in Nova Scotia, Lost Bell is bringing a new twist to classic wines.
The Lost Bell Rosé is sure to be your new go-to refresher with a gorgeous pink color and deliciously simple taste and finish. If rosé isn't your thing, their Saval or Baco Noir will be sure to thrill your taste buds.
All of their wines are handcrafted in Falmouth, Nova Scotia by their wonderful winemaker, Tony. Kick back and sip the flavors of the valley with Lost Bell Wines by Saint Fimi.
Welcome to the morning meeting with Sarah and Jess,
where the tea is hot, the wine is chilled, and no topic is off limits. Pull up a chair and join us. There is room for all of you here.
We won't limit seating, we'll just build a bigger table. Let's begin today's meeting.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the morning meeting with Sarah and Jess. We are so happy that you are back around our table. This week's episode is part 2 of our chat with Mayor Amanda McDougall on the importance of inclusivity. Our first episode with Amanda was released on February 21st, last Monday, and you can listen to that one before jumping into this one. We pick up right where we left off, where Mayor McDougall continues telling us about the importance of inclusivity and equity in her professional and personal life. Enjoy.
Yeah, early intervention's amazing. And even I had an appointment with early intervention last week, and I asked, Emmett's doing great. He has no heart condition. His lungs are fantastic. Like physically,
Amazing.
He's just like healthy as a horse. But I want to help him with speech, and I want to help him because he has a hearing deficit. So, for me to talk to early intervention and be like, how do I learn sign language? Like,
right.
What do I do? Do I go somewhere? Like, is there somewhere I sign up? I don't know. They will source out your resources and supports, which is yeah. And I got a book from On Paper Books, and I'm not trying to say that. Like, they just have an amazing sign language book there. That is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
These are all things that you have to learn though, right? Like things that you weren't necessarily aware of, or that other parents may not necessarily have to think about. And we talked about what barriers and challenges in the community you may not have recognized or realized before Emmett arrived. Or maybe what are some that you, in your role as a parent, knowing what you know now, what you have to learn, would you say that the children, even the children within the Down Syndrome Society, is there common occurrences in these things that you can expect, and you can, or do some of these vary depending on the child?
Oh, yeah. No, there's I'll never be more grateful than our physiotherapist at the regional hospital. She, I'm stressing out over these milestone lists, right?
Right.
Oh, just a disaster. And she was like, I'm going to print you off a milestone list that's more fitting with somebody who has Down syndrome.
Incredible, because you're working from the wrong document. So you're just setting yourself up for this stress, this extra stress.
It's on my fridge. I'm good.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's so simple. It's just such a relief on your mind, because I always feel like, am I doing enough? And this is not
right.
As a mom of a child with different abilities. This is just a mom.
Yeah. We all
feel like that. Hey, do I know enough to be teaching this young human how to be a human? It's a big deal. But this also seeps into Amanda the Mayor very, very much, because now I'm thinking to myself, what should our community priorities be? How can we be more inclusive? And what does inclusivity mean? It doesn't mean, any one thing. It is so many things that we have to continuously evolve and educate and learn how to be inclusive.
That's right. And I think the biggest thing is giving every child the opportunity to be with their peers in their community.
Bingo.
It's major, right? And I think when we look back on years ago, and you mentioned that earlier, we have come a long way. Daycare centers have come a long way. Programs that we have come a long way, but there are still gaps. There are a lot of gaps. And I think it's important that we have these conversations. We ask the hard questions to say, what more can we be doing to ensure that every child, not just a handful, because there's a lot of programs that do put things in place that they can support children with different abilities, but not every child. Not every child gets the opportunity.
But this is it. And then we also have to think about, okay, how do we make it easier for parents to access resources? So I think about this very much as, an elected official and a decision maker, the things that I want to advocate for. So we know that our current provincial government is really, really focusing on healthcare. Mm-hmm. Okay, what does healthcare mean? Healthcare means so many different things to different people. The fact that I had to travel up every 3 weeks to Halifax during my pregnancy is a really big deal.
In a pandemic.
And I fully recognize my privilege in the sense that I had a job that was flexible. I didn't have to miss work.
Right.
I could take time and not lose paychecks. We had the ability to pay for that gas, to do that travel. And even still with Emmett, we're followed at the IWK. Mm-hmm. So for him, like the last round of appointments that he had, I had to go up on Sunday, stay the night, take him into the IWK on Monday, then travel back that afternoon and evening. That is huge. That's 2 days. That's a hotel room. That's food. All of this needs to be taken into account when we're talking about healthcare, when we're talking about how do we create welcoming and inclusive communities? What are the things that people need to be able to support their families at home? And at home is very important because I see a lot in this role. I see a lot that will, shake people to the core when it comes to the poverty that our community faces, the stuff that children are dealing with on a daily basis, really heavy, heavy, heavy things. How do we make that heavy load lighter for them, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm just sitting in awe, like listening to you speak and thinking of all, you're so right. Like, what does healthcare mean? And the importance of inclusivity and equitable spaces for kids and for families in all of these different areas, whether it's healthcare or education, in the political and personal spheres. We talk about what we can do as community members and what we all can do. And going back to those first few feelings you had about, worrying about, based from your experiences, worrying then about how people would treat Emmett and what they would say and trying to protect him from all of that. What can we do? So for all of families out there, what can we teach our children? What do you want others to know, others to learn? I think we're all part of this, right? We can all be advocates. Maybe that's a strong word. We can all do our part to create these inclusive and equitable spaces. Do you have any advice for people who want to make sure they're focusing and they're teaching their kids that?
Well, I think asking questions when you don't fully understand something and making it possible to ask questions too. So again, I think back to even bringing up this topic that, hey, Ro, your brother has Down syndrome. That probably was much more difficult because of my head and my mind than the conversation actually was. And so that's because, I don't know, I feel like when I grew up, children who had different abilities, they weren't in my classroom per se.
Right.
They were a little bit of the time. And the terminology that was used around why they were in different classrooms was really negative and really it segregated them. You shouldn't talk about it. Right. You didn't talk about it because it was hard. And so like letting all of that go and trying to find the words and the conversations to make it an inclusive, like you can't, it's hard to even talk about it, right? Like making these changes is tough. So making space to ask questions and also being comfortable to ask questions is really important. I feel like in my role as mayor, talking about it at every opportunity I possibly can, not just Down syndrome, but talking about, I have a new position in my office that just started last week, and that's the Municipal Indigenous Advisor position. Big deal. And when we're talking about inclusivity and equity, I'm not going to say her name yet because I want her to introduce herself to the community because she's a spectacular human. But asking her, what are some low-hanging fruit things that you would do at City Hall? Like just taking a glance around, she was like, yeah, this place is really stark and cold. It is not welcoming. It has there's no representation of the diversity in our community anywhere. Right. It is gray walls and gray floors and closed doors and not very represented. Like, how would I feel if I was a newcomer from India coming into this building being like, yeah, this place is, I gotta go. This is not
Right.
Mhm.
What's it communicating? Yeah.
exactly. And so I took that to heart and I'm like, holy moly, like simple things that we can do just to create space. Like you say,
Yeah.
you say these things so well, create the space. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you say like equality, that's the word I was missing before. Like equality and equity are different, both very important, but we have to recognize, you talked about your privilege of being able to leave work and being able to travel and pay for the gas and get the hotel and et cetera. And the reality is just so many people in our community
They simply
can't do
cannot.
that. Or
Yeah.
if they do it, it's choosing that over paying the bill that month or whatever it may be, which isn't creating that space for them. Right.
No.
And I think getting comfortable, and I've said this before, but getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like we just have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable so that we can have these hard conversations that we think are hard, but maybe they're easier than we expect. And we're making them harder in our heads because we're scared to offend someone, or we're scared to say the wrong word. We're scared with our language. But if we can just have the belief that we're all coming from the best place possible and trying to learn, I think the education happens in the uncomfortable.
When you think about kids, like they're born the most accepting humans. Kids are the most accepting people on the face of the earth. And all the other stuff that comes with it is learned behavior.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always say to Logan, like we used to saying, we're different, we're the same. We all have noses, we all have mouths, we all have eyes, we all have hair, we all have skin. Skin's different color, eyes are different shapes, noses are different shapes, mouths are, some have braces, some have black hair, some have curly hair. We are all different, but we're the same. And I really think that that line can go so far. And even we were watching, I don't know, I think it was like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse the other day. And Donald Duck was making like those weird faces. And he said something along the lines of, Donald Duck looks so different. And he said, he what did he say? I don't think he used the word weird, but like he looks so funny, or like, or maybe he used the word weird. I don't know. He used some sort of word that would explain that like he is different from the others. And I just said, no. I said, Donald Duck isn't weird, or whatever word he used. I said, he's just different. He's different, but he's the same. He was just like, oh yeah. Like I said, look at, he has a different mouth than Mickey, but his mouth still uses
the mouth.
He still uses his mouth to eat and talk and whatever. It's just different, but he's the same. And I think that term or that line can go so far, because with little ones, especially toddlers, you can't overcomplicate it. They don't get it. Right? So
but
you just got
as adults, really, right?
Yeah,
like we overcomplicate things. We just have to keep it simple.
Guys, I'm a politician. Like, do we want to talk about overcomplicating?
Yeah, seriously. That's so true.
But I think just being willing to have those conversations with our little ones, it all comes back to being uncomfortable. Just have the conversation. That's the start. Buy some books. There's Sesame Street, We're Different, We're the Same book. There's so many books. We have one too that talks about different abilities, about having dyslexia, having asthma, and how this child needs to take a puffer to school and what that is. Children in wheelchair, blind children, like it's an incredible book. Yeah. And it's basically around the basis of a garden, and how if you look at a garden, it has all different flowers and all different things that grow that all have different meaning, but everything that grows in the garden has a purpose and it's important. And without each one, we couldn't have a beautiful garden. And it's just a really good concept. I'll have to link the book or show the book so our listeners can check it out. But there's some really, really sweet books that just get on toddlers levels, children's levels, and it's amazing. So I'll definitely have to share that. But yeah, it's just have the conversations. Don't be afraid to ask questions, like we said. I think those are at least where to start anyway, right?
And so it's interesting that concept for toddlers is very, very relevant and needed for adults, right? And so definitely. I think about things like we don't have general committee and regional council meetings every month because I always felt like we had the same meeting twice. So I was like, scratch that. Let's have a themed meeting every month. And so every month we have a different theme. I think one was tourism, another one was environment. We have one coming up about electoral reform, essentially. Like, do we want to see the same structure when it comes to council going forward, or should we explore different options? And at least, you might not be making decisions per se in those meetings, but you're having a conversation about something, you're
Mhm.
focusing on it,
Mhm.
and you're saying, okay, well, I like this, I like that. I need to learn more about this. And here's some things that we could do in the interim, like some little small, quick actions.
Right.
And that's it. And that's life, right? And I don't know. Again, like I go back to that silly 6-day return to the office.
Yeah.
And that was so silly. And I have a wonderful friend, Emily Lutz. She's deputy mayor down in Kings, and she's like a superstar, remarkable human being, 3 kids, just killing it in her career. But she had the hard the discussions with her council and was like, I cannot do this without some sort of support for childcare. Like I've got 3 kids. If you want me to be at these committee meetings and to be able to give my 100%, there needs to be some sort of support for childcare. And so her council decided they would have up to, I don't know, X amount of dollars per year for childcare supports.
Amazing.
Right? People still give her grief. And they're like,
Mm.
I can't believe that you would use taxpayers' dollars. She's like, I'm elected and I'm doing this job. And my kids, like a lot of municipalities across the province, these roles are part-time and they're paid very, very, very little. And so, yeah, spending $50 a week on childcare for a couple of meetings, that's significant.
Yes. And it's a nonverbal representation of value, like take away the monetary value, but just the value of the work they do. And good for her. That makes me so inspired because I think as women, and I'll speak from my experience, and it's no fault of anyone else but my own. I mean, maybe the collective, everyone else in terms of society and social conditioning, but no particular people that I work with, because everyone that I've been lucky enough to work with, have been very supportive. But I think often as women, because if we're choosing to have a family and advance in our careers or work towards our career goals, we're made to feel like we have to sacrifice one for the other, or one has to overcompensate for the other, or whatever, or we keep one private. Like I think when I was off with Bo and coming back from maternity leave, I tried to keep my work life and my home life as separate as possible because I didn't want to look weak or less than if I had to take my child to an appointment or leave early for whatever, or so I kept them separate. And it was the second time around that I realized I learned more about communication from my kids than ever before. And on maternity leave with twins, I learned more about time management and conflict resolution and the importance of communication and effective listening and all of that. Those relationable, we call them soft skills. I argue they're hard skills than ever before. And I think it makes me a better employee and a better colleague and a better educator. And I realized this time how silly of me to try and keep those separate, right? To hide that. So good for her to be able to say, if you want my best self at this meeting, I need to know my kids are being cared for and there's not an extra financial stressor. Like it does not make her less than in her role, makes her more than, right? Like that.
Oh, she's like
that stigma. Like it's amazing.
Oh, she's amazing. She's so amazing. But this is it, right? And when like we were talking before about having that community of support around you, it's so important. It's funny. Before we were doing this podcast this evening, I was with another group of women online, and Mayor Brenda from Port Hawkesbury and Warden Amanda from Richmond. We were just chatting about this wonderful project that we're involved in, mentoring people who are interested, women who are interested in getting involved in politics, be it municipal or First Nations, and doing training courses and providing them all the education. But the 3 of us were talking and we're like, but we never do anything to support us after we're elected. We're just like floundering around.
Right.
So we were like, okay, we need to do something. We need to like bring us together, because there are 3 brand new elected officials in Inverness County, women elected. And this year has been a remarkable disaster for anybody who was elected in municipal elections, because you were online, you didn't get that team building piece that is so, oh my gosh, so important when it comes to a good decision-making body. The stress of the pandemic.
Yeah.
You don't get that experience of being in council chambers where you're like watching people make decisions and have conversations and debate. You're on a screen and it's just completely different.
It's isolating, I'm sure.
Yeah. And so we were like, we gotta bring it together. We need to make sure everybody's okay and do a check-in. Like,
It's a great
this is,
idea.
yeah. And so I wish there was a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should write one. Consider.
There you go.
All your extra time, start writing the book.
I just wish there was a book.
Yeah. Talking about questions, and both Amanda and Jessica, you both made such important points about asking questions and providing the space to ask questions and allowing people to ask the questions and being there to have that dialogue. And I forget where I heard this. I heard it recently and I tried it in my class last semester, and the difference is amazing. And we talk about the importance of language in all sorts of ways. But usually in my class, I would say, do you have any questions? And usually there's crickets. And then there's a question, or people are too scared to ask the question. And someone said, you should rephrase it and say, what are your questions? And I thought, wow, because I'm not asking someone, do you have a question? The answer to that is yes or no. That's a closed question. Do you have any questions? Well, I do, but I'm scared to ask them.
Yeah.
But when you rephrase it and say, what are your questions? Because we all have them. So someone give me one. I really found a difference in my students. Someone would then ask me their question. So I think it's interesting how like little words or little phrases and little pieces of our dialogue can have influence, and knowing if we're creating those safe spaces to really have maybe uncomfortable conversations so that we can all learn and grow. There's so much value to that, right?
Well, I was just going to say that you're welcoming questions at that point. You're not just being like, do you have any questions? Just because it's just like what you do. You just ask, do you have any questions?
Right.
Anyone have any questions? And then you move on. Nobody does. And you move on.
Right.
When you're saying, what questions do you have? Like you just said, you're creating that space to say, I'm here to listen. Yeah. So ask, right?
Yeah.
Huge difference. And I think that, bringing back to kids too, like what a game changer to say to our children, what questions do you have? I feel like they'll be like, oh, well,
1 sec, I'll pull up my list.
1 sec, I'll get my Rolodex. So like,
I didn't know. I'm going to do this in council. I feel like approach too. I mean, oh my gosh. I remember the very first time ever being in council. That room is, it's a bit kind of like oppressive sometimes. Like it just set up. It's
it's impressive.
A lot of pressure. And I was so scared to press my little button because you have to press a button and then your name shows in the queue for questions. And I was just like sweating bullets. Just oh my gosh, I'm going to be on TV. I have to ask a question. And now I have to ask a question and it has to be good. Oh my gosh, the pressure to ask a good question in those circumstances, right? And so I have a very different style of leadership, I like to think, than my previous experiences in council. I try to make space for everybody and be firm when I have to. But it's tough. It is tough when you are working within an institution that is so old and is so dated, and it does not jive with change.
Right. Yeah. Like, let's talk about that experience if you can elaborate. And I know some of it, maybe not, but where you can elaborate, please do. Like talking about the challenges you faced when taking office, leadership, being a woman in leadership and what that means, in my opinion. And I think you're an example of this, but I would love to hear your perspective and your experience. I think women, from stereotypically how women are conditioned to communicate and how we're taught to communicate, we actually, contrary to maybe popular belief, our communication styles usually lend itself to be very effective leaders because we're focusing on the people and the environments and the connections. And I think we have qualities for effectiveness. So in your role as a woman leader, maybe we don't even qualify it, just as a leader, what has your experience been in that leadership role? Is that a role you're typically comfortable in? Is it something that you had to get used to when you took the office in this way?
No, I like it. I do. Yeah, I do. I don't think I would be in this role if I didn't like that concept. Or, you always see that meme to all the kids, all the women or the girls in grade school who were called, I don't know, who were noted as talking too much.
Yes.
They're actually really good.
That's right. That's Right.
Oh my gosh, so many times. I do things differently. I lead with empathy because that's just who I am. And I know that is often looked upon as a fault, I guess you could say, or being too soft.
A weakness.
Right?
That's such a false narrative, but yeah.
No, I know. But I that's me. But I can't help but when I'm in that realm of politics, it changes you a little bit. It does. You get into this like fighting mindset. Everything is a battle. And so it's going to take time for us to get out of that and to be more mindful and thoughtful of people, because I said it at the very beginning, we're public servants. You don't have to fight.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a battle. Just because they did that in 1876 in sort of like robe wearing room with cigars, we don't have to do that anymore. And so trying to get away from that is really difficult. Trying to earn the respect. And I'm not just talking about in council, but I'm the president of the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities too. So I am effectively the voice of all 49 municipal units in the province.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there's been times that I feel like I'm being spoken to differently because I'm in my 30s for a short time. I am a woman. I am a mom. I do things differently. I've had comments, "Oh, you're just so cute and artsy."
No, you stop it right now.
What?
And also, like, different doesn't have to mean wrong. Like, just can people just be more open-minded? Because we talked about this with Kathleen in our last episode about, like, you said, like, I'm in my 30s. You have a fresh mind. You have fresh ideas. How exciting is that? Like, let's embrace that instead of just always like shutting it down. Because like I said, it's not what you did or not what they did or not what the municipality did hundreds of years ago. It's not relevant because what society was hundreds of years ago isn't what it is now.
Oh my gosh, my favorite thing to say when I was a counselor, and it would be brought up time and time again. Well, during the time of amalgamation, when amalgamation was taking place, and I was like, guys, I'm super sorry. I was 12 and it was just not on my radar. So can we think about right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Good for you. Good for you.
It would just drive me bonkers because I'm like, guys, I was watching Family Matters.
Yeah.
TGI Friday, like.
Yes, one Saturday morning.
Sincerely did not pay attention to amalgamation.
Wow.
And
people are fearful of change. Fearful.
But it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because remarkably, the CBRM voted in a pregnant 30-some-year-old woman, right? And so that
sure did.
Change is possible. That was
Well, that means people want change, right?
People are ready.
That we're ready for it. You know what? Change makers like yourself, I think, are often celebrated by the masses in retrospect, right? Like you do the hard work now, and those of us who see what you're doing and believe in what you're doing root for you the whole way. But to have the collective celebration usually happens after the hard work is done. And when the change takes place, you usually don't get your recognition until then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm good with very little recognition. I think I've had enough.
Yeah.
I just want to do my job.
But cute and artsy, come on. That is so diminishing. They would never have called a male cute and artsy.
No. And I know that. And the thing is, it's funny because I will also get comments from people saying, you have to stand up. You got to fight more for yourself. And I'm like, what's the point? Sometimes you have to pick and choose your battles. And that is very, very important. I don't have time to fight every single little battle.
Right.
I don't. But then if you learn from those, if you're listening, if you're hearing it, you can find the time to address it when it's going to be most effective. In that moment, probably not. Probably not. But when you can use it as a teachable moment, bigger and reach more people, that I don't know. It's just, I'm not the same woman I was when I started as a counselor. And I was so soft. I was. and like would scroll through comments and be like, oh geez Louise, well Betty there is pretty upset with me. I gotta call Betty. I gotta make sure Betty's happy. You know what? People are not going to be happy with me.
You can't please everyone.
No, you certainly can't. And so I don't know. It's a big weight off my shoulders to be like, it is what it is, right? People are going to be mad. Today they're mad about, I don't know, it could be any number of things, really. I don't know. Every day is different, though. You can't keep dwelling on it and, frig the comment section.
Yes.
That's right.
Delete the comment section. I think that what you just said, that summarizes your effectiveness as a leader, right? Knowing when to have the teachable moment, on what platform, with what audience, where the reach is, where to expend your energy, and when to protect it. I think that is such an incredible. That's huge. Yeah, that's very knowledgeable of you. And you just talked about the comment section, and we chatted a little bit about this prior to our conversation, but were you someone, I mean, you just said you were soft, so maybe this answers the question, but did you have to develop the backbone, and did you have to get a little bit more armored up in this role, or were you always kind of able to let things roll off your back in that way?
I can talk a big game, but I like things still hurt when you see comments, when you're hearing criticisms, it still stings and it still hurts. I've just gotten really good at, listening to that good advice of hand it off to somebody else to read. I don't have to read everything. I don't, and I shouldn't, because it just takes too much time away from me being good at my job.
Right.
That being said, when it is necessary, I will absolutely intervene and address things and hit them head on. So the comments that were made about my son, and that was a really big deal to me, really disgusting, horrible comments about him having Down syndrome, and just, they were unacceptable. I addressed them on the same platform that they were made, kind of thought about it for a little while. Like, what do I do? What do I do with these people that are berating my son, my infant? And his
imaginable.
It was so gross. But what I did was took a deep breath, talked to the authorities, let them do their jobs, and they found those people and dealt with them.
Right.
And that is, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to remove yourself from it to be the most effective of getting past it, right? And so that was great. That was fantastic. Yeah, a lot of the times, I don't know, to engage in it, to engage in those keyboard warriors, it'll
it's
just
draining, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's hard not to be reactionary, though, I'm sure, especially in the role you're in and with the disgusting comments like those that were made. So for you, again, another quality of your effectiveness as a leader, to be able to take a step back and not be reactionary, and just take a step back, take a breath, and think, okay, what is the best way forward and through this?
Yeah.
While still making sure they're held accountable for their actions, protecting your son, all of those values you want to touch on, while also being responsible in your role. There's so much to navigate there. The fact that you're even having to deal with people talking about your son is
I know.
Those people, I want to say those poor people, but I don't want to have pity on them either.
But you know what?
They have to be operating from a
they're
sad
hurting.
and
They
lonely
are
and
hurting.
unhappy, hurting place.
And that's exactly where it is. And I think that's where the step back and the breath.
Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah, you can be furious and angry, but then digging a little deeper into it, learning who those people are and why they said it, doesn't make it right.
Right.
Granted. I don't know, but I don't want to hurt them more if they're already hurting either.
Right.
Yeah.
The reminder of we're all humans. We're people trying to people.
Right. We're not robots.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that being said, nothing gives me more pleasure than blocking or unfriending somebody from being a turd.
Yes,
absolutely.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Yes, because those are those boundaries, right? We talk about boundaries sometimes, and we have to
set them for ourselves.
Boundaries, right? And that was one of our questions for you. And I think you've touched on it, but if you want to elaborate or expand, please do. But how important are boundaries in managing your many roles and responsibilities? So
Oh
whether
my
that's from you and the public, your family to the public, you and your colleagues, the whole space. I mean, you must have had to either get a quick lesson in setting boundaries, or you must have been good at setting them in the beginning.
I think I still have a ways to go. I'm getting better. I'm definitely getting better, especially with the time. And so, what am I going to do on a Sunday morning to correct a pothole? Not a whole lot until Monday morning.
Right.
So,
Right.
even, I know this sounds so insignificant, but putting an automatic response on my social media inboxes to say,
Yes.
hi, thanks for reaching out. If you want to get a hold of me, if you have an issue, here's my email.
Yes.
Right.
And I will respond when I'm back in the office.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a huge deal.
That is a huge deal.
I remember being a counselor being like, I have to answer every single phone call in this moment. Blah, blah.
Right.
Like it was just, oh, wow. It was impossibly, what an unattainable lifestyle, right?
And unsustainable.
No
Like
balance, right?
24/7 access to you.
Yeah, no.
The burnout would just be.
My mother doesn't even have that access.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
My mother especially.
I think it's easy to fall into that though, especially if the role is newer, because it's so exciting and you want to do so much and you want to make change, but then you quickly realize this is not sustainable, but then you've already done all that. So it's like, oh shoot, now I have to try and set the boundary, which is now 10 times harder because I mean, I just think about that with any job or any, even with parenting, it's hard to put those boundaries in place and regain that control, right?
So I make the joke, Tony DiLorenzo, who is my office manager in the mayor's office, I am her fifth mayor.
Wow.
And she jokes and she says, yeah, I'm going to write my memoirs. It's going to be 5 mayors and a baby.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That's incredible.
But she is the pillar of knowledge in my office. She's incredible. And we have a great relationship. But she lets me figure things out. She would never interject and be like, no, you should do things this way. This is how things are done. She very much respects that it is my office. I will find my way.
Yeah.
And so she was really, in the very beginning, she'd be like, so you are like, I want to make sure I understand. Anybody who calls, they can have a meeting with you in your office? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I want to meet with the people. And she's like, okay, if that's what you want to do. We have now changed to, okay, there are certain days a week that I have in-person meetings. There are some things that she can handle. And yeah, I don't meet with every single person who calls in person. It was just, like you said, unsustainable. I could not possibly do my job if I was like, if somebody wants to talk about, extending water lines into a community, like that doesn't, you don't have to spend an hour having a meeting in person about that. You can let them talk to Public Works.
Right. You didn't realize how popular you were going to be when you were like, yeah, sure, bring everyone in.
And it's so funny because sometimes she'll chuckle and be like, okay, well, that one took about 1.5 years to recognize. Got it.
Yeah. Saint Famille has been crafting award-winning wines from the warmth and beauty of the estate vineyard for almost 30 years. Overlooking the beautiful Avon River Valley, Saint Famille's winery celebrates the coastal terroir that has been coaxed from the earth, the sun, and the vine that root the winery in stunning Falmouth, Nova Scotia. Inspired by the impressive history and winemaking tradition at Saint Famille comes the newest addition to the lineup, Lost Belle by Saint Famille Wines. The trio of Lost Belle wines includes Rosé, Céval, and Baco Noir. The fresh look and flavors of Lost Belle set them apart from the competition. Shop on site or online for the complete wine profile, as well as unique, locally sourced items. Saint Famille ships Canada-wide. saintfamille.com. www.st-famille.com.
How wonderful to have someone so supportive, though, allowing you to learn from experience, right? To go through those motions on your own and have
she is, oh, wow. I couldn't do it without her. She's amazing. She threatens to retire all the time. And I said, listen, I'm the mayor. I said, no,
Yeah. That's right. I remember Tony from being younger. My mom used to work at the CBRM and lifetimes ago. And I remember meeting Tony and thinking she was the coolest woman I've ever met. First of all, her name was Tony. And second of all, she's like a little fashionista. Yes. I remember her outfits being like, she famous? What is she wearing?
She's a legend.
So cool.
She has no idea how cool she is.
She is a legend.
I know.
That
I love her.
So true.
But that's amazing. It. Like I have the best office. I have the best colleagues. I don't know. I love my job very, very much. It's very challenging at times, but I'm so lucky to be in it.
And we're lucky that you're in
lucky.
it.
I was just going to say that. We're lucky to have you in it.
Let's ask you this, Amanda. What have you learned? Or maybe what's one thing or the most important thing you think that you've learned about yourself and about our community since becoming mayor?
Oh my, that's a big question.
It's a tough one. And it's maybe there's multiple things, or maybe it's a theme or a word that comes to mind and not specific.
Do you know what? I think the most important thing I've learned is that you really shouldn't respond without taking that step back first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be, like I said, it could be an issue that is huge. It could be something that is small. But like I said, I don't hide the fact that I lead with my heart. Everything is out there. But that means that sometimes I react really emotionally to things when, if I take that step back, I can still feel my emotions, but then allow a little bit more logic to come into play as well. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm learning that for myself. And I feel like our community is doing the same. You know, it's really easy. This is, you know, not to be cliche, but unprecedented times, and everybody's emotions are just all over the place. Their responses to things are going to be huge or small. You don't know. There's no consistency. And so I think the thing that we all need to work on and continue to learn is that patience. You know, you cannot change things in a day. You can't create things in a day. And taking a moment to think about things before you respond it's really healthy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
What a great lesson for all of us, really.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking about
balance logic with emotion. Yeah. Incredible.
Now, do I do that every day? No. It's really hard.
It's a goal.
Work in
the
progress.
Goal we're working towards.
Yeah. Trying.
Just recognizing it, right, is the biggest piece.
Yeah, that's right. Being self-aware enough to know yourself to be able to do that, right?
I'm trying really hard. Don't write a letter until the next day. Don't write a letter until the next day. That's what I'm trying to do.
It's like the draft email. You write it, you put it in your drafts, you leave for a few hours, you come back and you read it.
My problem with that is I get a lot of DMs on Instagram, like through my sleep business. Like it's constant and it's a lot. And my fear is like, but if I don't open it and answer it right away, I'll open it and then I'll forget about it and then I won't respond and then I feel terrible. But like I need to set serious boundaries around it. But that's my thing. Like, what if I forget to respond? But I like your idea of put it in the drafts.
Yeah.
Is there a draft section in messages?
It's also okay. It's also okay to forget to respond. Like you can't do everything. Like oh my gosh. I love trees very, very much. Everybody knows that. But the amount of emails that I have printed off, like in a pile, God, it's just mortifying. But you can't possibly do it all.
Can't get to it all. Right. No. I don't know. I just feel so bad. Like, when I don't respond, I mean, this is hardly, I cannot even, am I going to say I'm silly to relate it to the mayor, but it's just, like you just feel, I don't know. I need to set some boundaries too. We talked about that with my goal setting.
Yeah,
just set some freaking boundaries. How about that, girl?
It's hard when you want to do it.
Message and put the accountability back on people.
I'm gonna do that.
Right.
I actually, when you said that, I was like, I gotta do an automatic message just so people know I see you. You're here.
Yep.
I appreciate the message. I'll get back to you when I can.
Exactly.
Or if I can, maybe.
Yeah. Protect your time.
Like, if I can.
Yeah, that's right. I think a really important theme that's come out of this conversation, Amanda, through your experience in politics, your professional life, your journey through parenthood and mothering, and the arrival of Emmett? We've talked a lot about inclusion and creating welcoming spaces. And do you have any advice or words of wisdom for other parents who are raising a child with Down syndrome, or parents who may be traveling back and forth through the IWK right now, worrying that might be the diagnosis? If they are in your shoes, then what advice do you have for them, or words of comfort for them?
Sooner than later, reach out, because there is, such a community of beautiful human beings ready to welcome you and support you and educate you and just be there. And I think, those days, it's so like, man, reflection is something, right?
It really
Going
is.
back to those days, like, I wouldn't talk to anybody about this potential diagnosis, because I was just I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know. And I didn't allow myself to learn. I didn't allow myself to lean on other people. And that, I wish I would have. I wish I would, because there's so much beauty. And I'm telling you, I said this to my cousin, and I don't know if this is an overshare, but I remember after Emmett was born and getting to know this little human being. I mean, it's anybody who meets somebody with Down syndrome, there's so much joy.
Yeah,
there is.
There is so much joy and laughter and just adorableness. And my cousin called me and was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm pregnant with my third." And I said to her, I was like, "Oh, I really hope your baby has Down syndrome."
Oh.
And then she was like, she's a psychologist, and she's like, "You know what? I know that comes from a place of deep, deep love. I shouldn't say that to everybody who's pregnant, because that could be
right.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. However, yeah.
But that's how I feel, though. That's how I feel. I love my children so much. I love their differences. I love how much alike they are.
Yeah.
You're in for a world of goodness.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible?
What a nice message.
It really is. And I think we've said this before in other episodes, and I was reminded of it hearing your experience. Oh, me too. I'm like tissuing every so often, hoping you'll hear it in the mic. And we've talked just hearing your experience thus far, and I was reminded of, we've chatted about it before, but comparison is the thief of joy. And we do that all the time. Like you said, as a parent or as a mother, watching your kid with other kids, or hearing that Jess and I have had these conversations of like, our first boys are in similar ages, and it's like, oh, they're potty trained, mine's not yet, or oh, they're doing that, mine's not yet,
and stopping ourselves, being like, we're not going to do this.
Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that to our perfect little humans, learning to human on their own time? We're just, and why are we doing it? It's we don't love them any less, or we don't, it's
and
just
they don't care.
They don't care. And it doesn't matter if they're healthy and happy. And, it's this fear of,
as long as they're happy. That's it.
It's this. Yeah, that's right. It's this fear of they're, like you said, the protecting them from the outside world, as if some toddler's going to judge the toddler for not being potty trained yet or something.
No, it's parents worried about other parents judging them. That's what it is. You're not
right.
And I used to think back, like, what would Logan think if he knew that I was like asking another parent about their child? Like, does your child do this yet? Right. Like, I feel like he would be like, how rude, Mom. Like, I'll get there.
Right. But think about this. Did our moms do that? Like,
right. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh God, they probably did.
I wonder.
I don't know, but I think about
what did they
I know.
I really think about being younger, and I have like a big family on my mom's side, and we would all be at my grandmother's house on Sundays, sitting around. Well, the adults would be around the table drinking tea and eating pie, and all of the cousins would be kind of around. And every single one of us are different, like so different. Right. Funny thing is, I don't think I've ever felt that though. Like, I don't know if they did. I don't know if they did compare us, because I never ever felt compared to. And I never ever felt like they were talking about, I feel like they were just living life.
Right.
Do you think it's because we have access to just like I don't know if it's reliable, but so much information.
I
Oh,
think
100%.
so.
Amanda. I think our
100%.
access to information has changed, and our access to other people's lives. Like my
So-
mother wasn't watching her
Everyone was
neighbor
just so much more
kids
accepting then.
taking their first steps or
Right.
when they had their first meal or, you know, so we have constant access.
So going back to that, what advice would I give to somebody who, you know, was going through the tests at IWK, the waiting for the results from the NIPT test, like
Yes.
all that stuff? Don't go on the internet.
Right. Don't Google.
Oh my gosh. And it's like, I'm a complete hypocrite because of course that's what I did for 9 months.
Yeah.
And you know, it just, I loved being pregnant so much. And those moments, I feel like it took away some of those really wonderful moments of like being there, being present, and recognizing what a gift this is. Because I was like, oh my gosh, I just hacked a medical journal. I'm going to read this.
Right.
Yeah.
I just need to know.
Right. And going back to the comparison is the thief of joy, we all do it in parenthood and these various stages of developmental stages of our kids. But I think we can do it in our pregnancies and our expectations for our children and babies as well. Right. So you had an expectation of what this should be, or you were worried, and maybe it robs us of moments of joy because we are so worried about the unknowns, right? Or it being different than we expected in some way. It's so interesting, like reflection, like you said.
Oh,
what we can learn.
Heck of a tool.
It really is. It really is. And I think that's important for parents too. Like you said, you're in for so much joy. It's going to be okay. It's going to be amazing. Your kids are going to be so loved, right?
And I think we just need to realize that like it takes all kinds of kinds to make the world go round. And I mean that in a million different ways. Let's just celebrate every child for who they are, where they are, and let that be it, you know?
Like, and every mother too.
Like, you know, we're like every baby is perfect just the way they are. Then that's all that, you know.
Oh, I love my baby.
Yeah. Do you think, Amanda, through that process and, you know, making those travels back and forth to Halifax every 3 weeks, and you mentioned you had 3 miscarriages prior, which adds another layer, right? Every day in that 4th pregnancy must have been like a worry and a gift. You're like, yay, but. So you're trying to stay present, but also being aware of the experiences you had. And it's such an emotional roller coaster anyway. And then that layered on top of it. And every drive back and with the original test of what did they call the
nuchal translucency.
Yes, when you got that first number and that, you know, one determinant of it, do you think you let yourself process that from that day forward, or were you ignoring it?
Oh, I was absolutely ignoring it because I was also in the midst of a political campaign.
Right.
It was almost like, I hate to say this, but it's almost a blessing that I had such a crappy, terrible, challenging campaign, because it did take my mind away from some of those hard things. And maybe that's not the healthiest way of coping, but I would just like, okay, this is what I learned today. This is what I have to do tomorrow. I also have to go and now try to become a mayor. Right. I didn't. And I think even still to this very moment, I'm still going through the emotions of my son having Down syndrome. And I don't say that in a negative way, but it makes me a different mom. I have to do different things. I'm learning. And maybe if I would have given in and let myself process it earlier on, I might not have to go through the crash courses I'm going through now. I could have been more prepared.
Hindsight 2020 all the time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like Emmett is wildly flexible. Wow. And it's because of the low muscle tone that many folks who are born with Down syndrome have. And so like, oh my gosh, I remember the first day he rolled, like when he was rolling over, his arm was like behind him and he rolled and it just like flat, it just like flattened out behind him.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy cramoly, I gotta call the ambulance. Like, he's got,
Mhm.
like, he just dislocated his shoulder. Nope. He is just so wildly flexible. And maybe if I wouldn't have like obsessed over medical journals on stuff that was relevant, and maybe thought about, like, okay, let's just talk about the human
Their
being.
superpowers. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so flexible. It's wild.
That's amazing. And he also has the cutest hairstyle going right now.
Oh
I
my
saw your
God,
recent
it is
picture.
so
It's
cute.
adorable.
His super killer baby mullet.
Yes, I'm obsessed. So much luxurious hair for a 1-year-old, right? Is he 1 now? Just over 1.
He is 1.
Yeah.
He was 1 in November. So he
Yes.
is 1. Yeah.
What a quick year, but also like the days are long, the years are short. I'm sure that rings true in some ways.
It's so wild. Yeah, his mullet is amazing. It's very interesting because people be like, hey, he's gonna need a haircut. And I'm like,
No way.
I want to see where this goes.
Yes. Yes. People are saying that to me about the twins right now too. Oh, you're gonna cut their hair. I think it's time for a haircut. And I'm like, no, Bo was bald until he was like 2.5. I'm never touching this head of hair. I've never had a 1-year-old with this much hair.
So much hair. I put it in a little ponytail today and it was so adorable.
Oh,
So cute.
But also that was out of like making sure that his food, like, he's got so much hair that he can hide a lot of stuff in there. So
Right.
Yep.
it was
Saving it for later.
Save it for later. Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
he's so great. Both the boys. It's just, I know I was saying how excited I was for school to go back in tomorrow, but it has been really nice to have this extra time with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that duality, right?
Yeah.
Of parenthood that we talked about. It's like, okay, it's time for you to go back, but also I'm treasuring the time that we won't get back again together.
Well, because when
So
they're
much
home,
time.
it's the bare minimum with work. You do what you can do. So
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to get back and be able to focus and,
Correct.
yeah, because you can love two things. Like, it coexists, right? Yes, I love time with Logan too, but I also love to work. And that motivates me and that gives me energy in a different way. So I'm definitely, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Ready to rock and roll here.
Yeah.
Lunches are packed.
Yeah, that's right. Clothes are out. You've never been more prepared for a Monday morning.
Yeah. I even washed my hair today. Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. Oh, you're ready.
Right. That's true.
Mm-hmm. Gonna blow out.
Let us maybe end with this and we'll give you the final thoughts or comments after this last question. But what do you want people to know about living in Cape Breton, whether that's for those of us living and working and planting our roots here, if it's people considering building their future here?
Hillary, come on.
Why,
back,
if you're listening, contributing to the community here, what is something as the mayor, as a parent raising a young family in this community, what is it that you want others to know about it?
So I know a lot of people don't know this. I wasn't actually born in Cape Breton. My dad was in the military, so I know, right?
I did not know that.
No, my dad was, he was in the military. So we moved around a lot until grade 11 is where I found myself in Cape Breton permanently. I mean, I spent my summers here in Manitou. My whole family's from here. So,
right.
Cape Breton, I've lived a lot of places. I lived over in Italy after university for a while. I really spread my wings and tried everything and tried to find home everywhere. But this is home. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be born here to feel like you're home. Now, people are very passionate here as well and very funny and very quirky. But I think it just makes every day interesting and sometimes funny. But it like, I've never, ever felt more at home than I did here. And that's what drove me to want to be so involved in so much that now I'm the mayor. Like,
right.
It's home. It's a good home. It's a good home.
It's a beautiful place to live. It really is. And
let me tell you, like, I had a baby in office to like a month and some days after being sworn in, and people who I've never met, people from everywhere, they welcomed my baby. They showered him with love and gifts. We had so many baby blankets that we could cover every child, I'm sure, in the CBRM with a little bit of my love. But this is a passionate place and it is home.
That is so nice.
I love that.
That is so lovely.
I get chills.
It really, they say it might be cliche, but it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise all of us, right? And this is a good village.
I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
What an awesome episode. This has been so good to just chat. Is there any about it all? Is there anything you want to leave us with, the listeners? We talked about a lot of good topics.
Talk about a lot. I don't know. I'm really happy we had this time together, and I'm happy because I don't get this opportunity to be, I guess, so real and raw. Usually it's so issue driven or, topic specific. And so I am so grateful for both of you for making this an option for me, because, it's easy to be, I don't know, categorized as, oh, she's the mayor. She can only talk about wastewater and garbage and things like that. But you don't get to show who you are as a person often. Right. And I don't feel comfortable doing that in many circumstances. So thank you for making it so comfortable and so fun.
Well, we're the honor is ours. Like, I feel, I'm like starstruck this whole time too. Because it's the honor. Mayor. Come on. The only thing that could be better is if we were sitting together physically. But I will take this. We will
do it. We will
do it. For our next episode with you. We will be around your table.
There's another invite, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll bring that uncomfortable chain of office and you guys.
That's right. You have to. Yes. We'll try it on. Yeah. I can't wait. What an honor. The honor really is all of ours, Amanda. I know our listeners agree. And it's so nice to be able to have you around our table to have this honest conversation and for you to be so raw and real. We really do appreciate it. And I know those listening will as well. You are inspiring and you are definitely worth your worship title. We are worshiping you from close and far for sure. So it is our pleasure to have you. And I think it's our complete honor to have you leading our community and our municipality as well. So thank you for all you do in all of the ways, in all of your roles. We are inspired daily for sure. We always leave off with our questions that we ask all of our guests, our morning meeting questions. So Jessica will start us off with these.
Okay, so we'll just do the rapid ones first. I usually pick the what would you rather for the guest. I'm between a few. I might have to ask a few, but
yes, do it.
To keep it simple for the first one, tea or coffee? What would you rather?
Coffee. So many coffees. Yeah.
All the coffees.
Fair.
How do you take it?
Love them. Black.
Oh,
although
so happy to hear that.
Although I got a milk frother for Christmas and I am having a nice time with that thing.
Oh, very fancy.
Yeah.
Very fancy. For wine, would you rather white or red?
Red.
Me too.
I do. I love a dark Shiraz.
Okay. I gotta get on the red because I'm a white wine gal.
I will still drink white wine. Oh,
right.
I love red wine. Oh, I love it.
Okay. Yeah. So good.
I'm going to go with this one. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No,
I was going to I have one that I think I'm going to go with for the what would you rather. I could have went political, but I feel like, you know what? I'm going to keep it simple. So, Amanda, would you rather explore space or the ocean?
Oh, that's hard. Okay. And it's hard because I feel like I would be really nervous doing both.
Okay.
And I love the ocean. I love swimming, but the deep ocean kind of freaks me out because who knows what's down there. And in
so scary.
As a little girl, my biggest fear was looking out the patio door at night and seeing an alien. I was like, I am not.
Oh God, I am so sorry.
I was.
God, edit this out. I'm asking you to do one.
Those.
Oh my God.
I guess my family all fish and I've got stories. Yeah. My dad's a fisherman too, Neil. And
yes,
the ocean kind of freaks me out a little bit. I love a swim. I love a beach.
Yeah.
Aliens. There's something about aliens. I'm just not ready to. I would not do well in some sort of apocalypse situation. We'll say.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, folks. If it comes to it, you might need your deputy mayor.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask
confident.
one more. I'm going to go political now because I feel like that one was an epic fail.
No,
Okay,
that was
ready?
a good one. Are you choosing the ocean if you had to choose, or you're choosing neither?
I'm choosing neither. I just
Okay.
Okay. So last another. Okay. So here's
You're
one.
earthbound.
Would you rather have a 10-hour dinner with a headstrong politician from an opposing party? I wish you could all see your face right now. Or attend a 10-hour concert for a music group you detest?
I think I would go with the opposing politician because I feel like those are fun situations to be in.
Yeah.
And if you're skilled enough, you can flip that conversation around and have some fun.
Yeah.
Love
I
it.
that one.
Love
what
it.
are you choosing, Jess?
I'll go to the concert because I'm the worst debater ever. Like my husband, it frustrates me so much because my husband can debate so well and I just can't form the words quick enough. I can't form my thoughts quick enough. I have a hard time expressing what I'm saying. It comes across a lot on this podcast, but sometimes I'm like, Sarah, help, come here, please help me with my words. That's why we work so well. But I'd have to choose the concert. I feel like I could just get down with it. I'd have to have maybe a wine or two. Like there's ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I would never do the political party one. No. What about you, Sarah?
I would choose the political party.
I knew you would.
I like a good conversation where we can learn from one another or try to find like a healthy debate. But I also think I love music. But if I don't like a certain type of music or song, I feel like that's definition of torture to have to listen to it for 10 hours. So I think I would have to go with that one. What about the space or the ocean, Jess?
Well, I have this thing about space. I think it's the most crazy thing in the world. Like I always say, like, I don't smoke marijuana, but there would be like, that would be the time. Like, because I feel like if I was to, I'd have like, because space to me, I feel high when I talk about space because it's such a crazy concept. It's so big and there's so much to grasp. It. But then the ocean, like I'm terrified of drowning. I have a huge fear of like water. I don't know. I'm going neither on that one too.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. I would not go to the ocean. I think the ocean is like the scariest place to be. Same thing. I love a good swim, like paddle around in the waves, come back out, but like the deep
snorkeling.
Ocean, I think there's some scary stuff there that we have no idea about.
I feel like I'm gonna have nightmares tonight.
Well, Amanda, this was such a lovely time. We appreciate your time so much. Thank you for joining us around the morning meeting table.
Love it.
We can't wait to have you back again. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom and experience. It's been an absolute pleasure and an absolute honor.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and give us a review. You can find us on social media at The Morning Meeting Podcast and connect with us through email at themorningmeetingpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for sitting around our table. Sarah and Jess.